let's look at the business cycle. We are still continuing. So this is the diagram that shows the business cycle. This part shows expansion. This is the peak. This is the recession. Then after the recession, there is depression. Then there is a trough. Then there is recovery. Then there is expansion. There is a peak. There is recession. As we said, it is something that is recurring. So it comes like this. After it recurs again. It occurs like again. Yes, so there is expansion, the peak, the recession, the depression, the trough, the recovery. Then we go back again. Expansion, peak, recession. So the main parts are expansion, peak, recession, depression, trough, and then recovery. Those are the main parts that we have. They are 6. So this is how the business cycle looks like. We are going to be explaining like the stages one by one. So the stages of the business cycle, in the diagram above, the straight line in the middle of the steady growth, the business cycle moves about the line, this straight line, this one. That's what we are meaning. And below is a more detailed description of each stage. So we are going to describe like each stage, what it is all about and its characteristics. So we shall start with the expansion stage, this one. So expansion, this is the first stage in the business cycle. It's what you should first know, that it is the first stage in the business cycle, which is expansion. And in this stage, there is an increase in positive economic indicators. So you should know the economic indicators. So there is an increase in everything since you're expanding. Expansion is something that is positive. So there is an increase in positive economic indicators like employment. There is an increase in employment, increase in income, increase in output, wages, profits, demand, supply of goods and services. And that is the expansion stage. And debtors are generally paying their debts on time. The velocity of money supply is high and investment is high. This process continues as long as economic conditions are favorable for expansion. And that is the expansion stage. What you have to first explain is that it is the first stage in the business cycle. Then you give the characteristics. The characteristics is that there is an increase in positive economic indicators. Then you give them, there is an increase in employment, income, output, wages, profits, demand, increase in supply of goods and services, increase in money supply, investment is high, like that. And that is the expansion stage, which is the first stage. Then the second stage is the peak. We can see it here on the diagram. So the peak like in normal understanding, the peak is it's something that is the highest. So the peak, the economy reaches a saturation point like the peak, which is the second stage of the business cycle. So the peak is the second stage of the business cycle. And the maximum limit of growth is attained. As we can see, it is the highest point. So you've attained like the maximum limit of growth. You've reached the top. That is the peak. So the maximum limit of growth is attained. Economic indicators do not grow any further. They are at their highest. So prices at their peak, employment is at its peak, like wages at their peak, like everything is at the highest. They can't grow anymore. This stage marks the reversal point in the trend of economic growth. Consumers tend to restructure their budgets at this point. Yeah. So since you've reached the peak, you start looking like for other things to do. And it marks like the reversal point. Things will start going back. Yeah. So after the peak, we shall have like a recession, you get it? Yeah. So it is a reversal point. After reaching the peak, like the highest limit, yeah, you start going to other things. Yeah, so here everything is at its maximum. Prices, employment, wages, profits at their highest, like everything. That's what you should know about the peak, and then it is the second stage of the business cycle. Then the third stage is the recession. We can see it here, recession on the diagram. So recession, this is a stage that follows the peak phase. As we saw in the diagram, it follows the peak. The demand for goods and services starts declining. As we can see from the diagram, it shows that it's declining. So here things start to decline. The demand for goods and services start to decline rapidly and steadily in this phase. Producers do not notice the decrease in demand instantly, and they go on producing, which creates a situation of excess supply in the market. So here there is a reduction in demand, but there is increase in supply of goods and services. So the supply of goods is greater than the demand. Prices tend to fall. All positive economic indicators such as income, output, wages, they all fall. So it's what you should know about the recession stage. First is that it follows the peak phase, which is the third stage in the business cycle. Then everything starts to fall except supply. Yeah, the demand for goods, the prices, income, output, wages, they all fall. Yeah. Then we go to the next phase. The next phase is depression here. Yeah, depression. So depression, it is the fourth stage of the business cycle. So there is a rise in unemployment. As we can see, depression is after recession, like after everything falling. Yeah, depression, like it just becomes worse. It goes to the negative level. So there is a rise in unemployment. The growth of the economy continues to decline as this falls below the steady growth line. Yeah, this stage is called depression. So depression, like it goes to the negative point. It crosses the line, it goes down. Yeah, it means that the situation is getting worse. Yeah. Then the next stage is the trough, and trough it follows the depression. It is the fifth stage of the business cycle, and in the depression stage, the economic growth becomes negative. We saw that. There is further decline until the prices of factors as well as the demand and supply of goods and services reach their lowest point. Yeah, so for the trough, like it is the lowest. A trough is the opposite of the peak. The peak is the highest and the trough is the lowest. As we can see in the diagram, a trough is at its lowest, then for the peak it is at its highest. So for the peak, there is like the prices of goods and services is at its highest, then for the trough the prices is at its lowest. Yeah. For the peak, wages are at the highest, then for the trough, wages at their lowest. Yeah, so The trough is the opposite of the peak. Yeah, so it is a negative saturation point of an economy. There is an extensive depletion of national income and then expenditure. Yeah, like everything is at its lowest. That is the trough. Then after the trough, the economy will start to recover. Yeah, the economy will start to recover, which is the recovery stage. This one, the economy will start to recover and it will start going like to positive. So things will start improving in the recovery stage. So the recovery stage is like the last stage of the business cycle. After the trough, the economy moves to the stage of recovery. And in this phase, there is a turn around in the economy. It begins to recover from the negative growth rate. So everything like starts to increase. Things start to improve. Demand increases, employment increases, the wages start to increase, prices start to increase, like that. Yeah. So recovery continues until the economy returns to steady growth. Yeah, and that is the business cycle. That's the business cycle. It has 6 stages. Expansion, like there is an increase in all the positive economic indicators. The peak, like everything is at its highest. Recession, they start to fall. Depression, it starts getting worse. Then at the trough, everything is at its lowest. Then recovery, things start to improve. Yeah. Then it repeats itself. After the recovery, we go to expansion, then peak again, then recession, like that. It is a recurring process. Yeah, and that is the business cycle. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share with your friends. Let's catch up in my next video.